The sun hung low over the jagged cliffs of Talvoria, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. The air was thin, sharp with a metallic tang that made Cale's lungs work harder with every breath. He adjusted the strap of his field pack and glanced at the scanner in his hand. A faint signal had led him here, a distress call of unknown origin, and he had been ordered to investigate. Humans rarely ventured this far, and the thought of encountering unknown alien life filled him with both excitement and caution. Cale moved carefully over the uneven terrain, his boots crunching over loose stones. The cliffs dropped off into deep chasms, their depths shrouded in a strange, misty glow that seemed alive, pulsating gently in rhythm with the wind. He had read reports of the bioluminescent flora native to this region, but seeing it in person was far different. Twisting vines climbed the cliffs, dotted with glowing orbs that shifted color with every gust. The place felt alive, aware, almost watching him as he progressed. After an hour of careful climbing, he spotted something in the distance, a figure slumped near the edge of a rocky outcrop. It moved slightly, enough to show it was alive. His heart quickened. The being was tall, far taller than any human, with limbs that seemed almost too long, and a body covered in shimmering skin that reflected the sun like liquid metal. Cale froze for a moment, analyzing. The alien was badly wounded, a long gash across her forearm, and she seemed to be trying to drag herself toward a safer area. Cale approached slowly, hands raised in a non-threatening manner. "I'm here to help," he said into the universal translator clipped to his chest. The device hissed softly as it converted his words into a series of tonal vibrations that the alien could understand. She lifted her head, eyes a brilliant shade of violet that seemed to hold both pain and defiance. She did not speak. Instead, she assessed him, every movement precise, every muscle tense. Cale realized she was a warrior. Her injuries did not weaken her resolve. They only sharpened it. He knelt beside her, keeping his movements deliberate. "I'm a medic. I just want to tend to your wound." For a long moment, she studied him in silence. Then, with a subtle nod, she allowed him to work. Cale examined the deep laceration along her forearm. The skin was delicate yet strong, shimmering faintly where the light struck it. He carefully cleaned the wound, avoiding jagged shards of metal embedded in the flesh. He applied a healing salve from his kit, a blend of human and adaptive alien compounds designed for rapid tissue regeneration. As he worked, his hand slipped slightly while removing a stubborn fragment of metal. It brushed against her side just below the ribs. She tensed instantly, and her eyes widened. Cale froze, realizing the delicate nature of the contact. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, pulling his hand back. "It was an accident." She remained still, her body stiff, but she did not move away. There was a strange tension between them now, a mixture of surprise and something he could not yet name. Cale focused on the wound again, trying to ignore the lingering unease in the air. He spoke softly. "You're safe. I'm not here to hurt you." Minutes stretched into hours as he continued the careful treatment. Slowly, the alien's breathing eased, and she began to relax, though only slightly. Cale noticed the fine patterns in her skin shifting with each movement, like liquid light flowing beneath a translucent surface. He had seen alien physiology in simulations, but nothing prepared him for the beauty and complexity before him. Through gestures and fragmented phrases converted by the translator, he learned that her name was Lyra. She was a scout, part of a mission to monitor threats to her planet. The humans had stumbled into her territory by coincidence, but now they were bound by circumstance. Cale realized that understanding her and earning her trust would be essential, not just for survival, but for the potential safety of both their species. Night fell over Talvoria, and the temperature dropped sharply. The cliffs, once glowing in the sun, now radiated cold shadows. Kyle and Lyra huddled near a rock overhang, using thermal blankets from his pack to ward off the chill. She stayed slightly apart, still wary, but her eyes occasionally flicked toward him with what seemed almost like curiosity. Kyle thought about the events of the day. What started as a simple rescue mission had turned into something far more complex. Lyra's people were secretive, their technology advanced, their customs unfamiliar. One wrong move could ignite hostility, yet every small gesture of trust could build an unexpected bond. He felt the weight of responsibility, not just as a medic, but as a human capable of making a difference in this alien world. As he prepared a simple meal, Kale glanced at her again. Lyra was cleaning her remaining wounds, her movements precise and deliberate. Despite the injuries, there was a grace to her that reminded him of elite human soldiers in training, disciplined, focused, and unyielding. He realized that helping her wasn't just about tending to wounds, it was about understanding her world, her rules, and her unspoken boundaries. The night grew deeper, and the sounds of Talvoria's nocturnal creatures began. Strange, soft chirps and clicks echoed from the cliffs, punctuated by distant roars of creatures too large to see from where they hid. Kyle kept watch, his hand never straying toward her, determined to respect the fragile trust they had begun to form. Yet he could not ignore the subtle awareness that grew between them, a recognition that each was learning from the other, adapting and perhaps slowly forming an unlikely connection. At dawn, the sun rose over Talvoria once more, bathing the cliffs in a warm golden light. Lyra was up first, testing her strength, flexing her arm where Kale had treated the wound. She moved cautiously but deliberately, showing that she trusted him enough to continue their journey. Kale packed his supplies, ready to accompany her deeper into the alien terrain. They moved in silence, the unspoken tension between them still present but tempered by necessity. Every step forward was a lesson, Kyle learning the alien's habits, Lyra observing the human's instincts. They navigated treacherous cliffs, crossed glowing rivers of semi-liquid minerals, and avoided territorial predators. Each obstacle revealed a different aspect of their personalities, Kale's resourcefulness and calm under pressure, Lyra's tactical brilliance and resilience. By midday, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley of strange rock formations. Kale paused, letting Lyra go ahead first. She turned briefly, a silent acknowledgement of his presence, before moving forward with measured steps. He understood the unspoken rule. He was a guest in her world, a human out of place, yet essential for reasons he did not fully comprehend. As the sun dipped toward the horizon once again, Kyle set up a small camp. Lyra sat nearby, watching him work, her expression unreadable. Yet when he accidentally brushed against her arm while adjusting a strap, she didn't flinch this time. A faint flicker of amusement, or something like it, crossed her features. Kale felt a small sense of relief. Trust, however fragile, was beginning to take root. The first part of their journey ended with an unspoken understanding. Kale and Lyra were unlikely allies, bound by circumstance, respect, and the unpredictable ways two species could begin to bridge the gap between worlds. The challenges ahead were immense, but for the first time, Kale felt that survival was possible. Not just for himself, but for the alien warrior who had unknowingly opened a door to a human he could not ignore. The night settled over the cliffs, quiet except for the occasional whisper of the wind through the glowing flora. Kyle lay awake, listening to the alien world breathe around him. Somewhere, deep inside, he knew this mission would change everything. Not just for humanity, but for the bond forming between him and Lyra. And though his hand had slipped once by accident, it had become the spark that started something neither of them fully understood yet. The next morning, Kale and Lyra set out toward the dense forest that sprawled across the valley. The terrain became increasingly treacherous. Twisting roots, jagged rocks, and glowing pools of unknown liquid made every step a challenge. Lyra moved with practiced ease, her long limbs navigating the obstacles as though the land itself was an extension of her body. Kyle followed closely, careful not to interfere, yet ready to act at the first sign of danger. Despite her initial caution, Lyra allowed Kale to remain nearby. Their interactions had become smoother. Small gestures, once tense, were now met with acceptance. When Kale handed her a water pack, she accepted it with a subtle nod. When he adjusted a strap on her armor that had come loose, she made no sudden movement, no recoil. A quiet understanding was growing between them, built on shared necessity and mutual respect. As they entered the forest, the sounds of life became more intense. Strange creatures scuttled along the underbrush, their eyes reflecting Kale's flashlight in eerie patterns. Birds with translucent wings sang in harmonic sequences that resonated in the dense air. The forest felt alive, almost sentient, as if observing their every move. Kyle remained vigilant, aware that every misstep could provoke an encounter they were unprepared for. Midway through the forest, a sudden rustling in the shadows made Lyra freeze. Her hand went instinctively to her sidearm, and Kale raised his own weapon, scanning the area. Two creatures emerged. Humanoid, but with elongated limbs and sharp, serrated claws. They hissed and leapt forward, fast and vicious. Kale's training kicked in immediately. He dodged, rolled, and used a stun blaster to disable one creature while Lyra moved with lethal precision, striking the second with a blade that shimmered like liquid metal. After the brief skirmish, Kale checked her over. She had no injuries, but the intensity of her eyes softened for a moment, a flicker of gratitude passing between them. They had saved each other, and Kyle realized that human intuition and courage complemented her strength and agility. Later, as they made camp, Kale noticed her studying him. Lyra had become more relaxed around him, her body language less defensive. When he handed her a meal, she accepted it without hesitation, taking small bites and occasionally glancing at him. Kyle understood that trust had deepened beyond words. During the night, a sudden tremor shook the ground. The glowing pools in the forest rippled unnaturally, and the trees bent as if pushed by an unseen force. Lyra reacted instantly, pulling Kyle behind a large, root-covered mound. From the shadows emerged a patrol of hostile alien mercenaries, clearly after them. Kale's heart pounded as he took in the numbers. There were more than they could handle head-on. "Follow my lead," Lyra whispered. She darted into the shadows, using her knowledge of the forest to move silently and avoid detection. Kale mirrored her movements, learning quickly how to blend into alien terrain. They circled behind the mercenaries, using debris and foliage for cover. Kyle's human ingenuity came into play as he improvised distractions, throwing stones to shift the enemy's attention, creating noises to mislead them. They reached a vantage point and observed the mercenaries regrouping. Kale realized that this was a test, not just of survival, but of trust. He was learning to anticipate Lyra's instincts, and she was learning to rely on his creativity. When the mercenaries began advancing toward them, Lyra signaled Kale. Together, they executed a coordinated attack, using the terrain and their combined skills to outmaneuver and disable the enemy without sustaining serious injuries. After the confrontation, they found a hidden path leading deeper into the forest. Lyra explained, through gestures and broken phrases, that this path led to her people's outpost, a place of safety and strategy. Kale felt a sense of accomplishment. He had not only survived, but had proven himself a capable ally in an alien world. As they walked, Kale accidentally brushed against her arm while handing her a tool to examine the path ahead. This time, Lyra did not react with surprise. Instead, she paused, looking at him with what could almost be considered amusement. Kale smiled awkwardly, realizing how far their bond had come. A simple slip, once a source of tension, had evolved into a moment of shared understanding. By dusk, they arrived at the outpost, a hidden structure camouflaged by the forest. Alien guards approached, their expressions wary but respectful. Lyra spoke quickly in her native language, and Kale watched as they relaxed, granting them entry. Inside, the outpost was a bustling hub of activity, with advanced technology humming softly and alien soldiers preparing for missions. Kale felt a mix of awe and nervousness. Lyra guided him to a quiet area, where she gestured for him to rest while she briefed her superiors. Kale watched her move with authority, despite her recent injury, commanding attention effortlessly. It struck him how capable she was, and he admired her discipline and courage. In this moment, he understood that his role here was not just as a healer, but as a bridge between their worlds. Later, Lyra returned. She gestured toward a holographic map showing the location of the approaching threat, the mercenary fleet intent on harvesting their planet's rare resources. Kale studied the map, offering suggestions based on human tactics and strategy. Lyra listened carefully, incorporating his ideas into her plan. The alliance between human ingenuity and alien experience was forming, and it gave both of them hope. That night, as they prepared for the coming battle, Kale reflected on their journey. The initial accident, the slip of his hand, had been a moment of tension, a potential misunderstanding, but it had also been the start of something greater, a connection built on trust, cooperation, and shared experience. Lyra, once wary and distant, had come to see him as more than just a human medic. He was a partner, someone she could rely on in ways few others could. As the first stars appeared in Talvoria's night sky, Lyra and Kale sat side by side, silent but aware of each other's presence. The forest around them was alive, yet they felt a rare calm in the midst of uncertainty. Tomorrow, the battle would begin, and their skills, trust, and courage would be tested like never before. But for now, they had each other, a fragile but undeniable bond that promised survival, understanding, and perhaps something more. Kyle realized that humanity's strength lay not just in technology or weapons, but in adaptability, courage, and the ability to connect across differences. Lyra had taught him as much as he had helped her, and together they were ready to face whatever challenges Talvoria and the galaxy threw their way. The night deepened, carrying with it the promise of conflict, adventure, and the enduring strength of two unlikely allies. Kale felt a surge of determination. Whatever came next, he would stand beside Lyra, not just as a healer, but as a human who had proven that courage, empathy, and ingenuity could bridge worlds and change destinies. As the forest whispered around them and the stars shone brightly overhead, Kale knew one thing with certainty. This was only the beginning of a journey that would test their limits, forge new bonds, and reveal the true potential of humanity in a universe that was far bigger and stranger than he had ever imagined.